Saida Vergara here with Becoming I Am and the astrology of November 24th through the 30th. This week will be a cool down of the energy. First of all, we are in the time of a Sagittarius, which is a time where we're kind of reevaluating our lives and kind of determining what will make us happy. The only thing that I will warn you during the times of Sagittarius season is that there is a tendency of the inner child awakening. And for anybody that oppresses their truest desires and their truest inner needs, that is linked to that inner child, there might be this energy of wanting to run away from situations because you feel trapped, or wanting to stop doing something just because it's not fun anymore. So having that energy in the forefront, knowing that this is what's possible during the Sagittarius season, it can save you from a lot of mishaps. We finally end Mercury retrograde this week. We also switch Venus from being in the sign of Scorpio into the sign of Sagittarius. All these energies are literally invoking an energy of freedom, of relaxation, of I'm ready to do me now. So let's get ready to talk about this week. All right, now we get to Monday, the 24th of November. We have the moon in Capricorn. When the moon is in Capricorn, we have this tendency of being very disciplined, very structured, very I can do this kind of energy. But the thing is that this moon in Capricorn, Mars will be in Sagittarius, and it's creating a square. So this is like your wall to the North Node, which is in retrograde in Pisces. Though Capricorn has a tendency of being disciplined and talking about signing contracts and all this kind of stuff, because of the other unaligned energies, there's a good possibility that Monday is going to actually bring to light agreements, contracts, binds, entanglements that you might have with people, places, things, energies, thought forms. Each one of us are in different situations, so you got to take it as it resonates. Um, and how it no longer serves us, actually how it restricts us and how we're over it, how it's not aligned to our truest purpose that we feel very resonant at this time. So there is a tendency of feeling like, F this, I quit, or I can't take this anymore, I can't take you anymore, I'm moving away, or I'm doing something different. Sagittarius season, though it's really awesome because it does activate your internal child and that freedom loving person that tries to move and shake and try different things, it does activate our fight or flight. Mostly our flight. And so there is a possibility that what is being triggered is I want to run away from the situation, or I want to ghost this person, or I want to ghost this situation because it's easier than for me to confront it head on and realize what power I have given to it and what I need to do within myself to take it back. And so what I would recommend for you, especially during this week, especially this Monday, is that if there is something that you feel like you want to run away from, take a pause, take a breath, and think to yourself, what can I do at this precise moment that will get me out of this situation, but I still look good in the end of it, right? I still am positive. I still can do what I need to do in the end of this, that I don't end up losing everything. That is a good way to channel Sagittarian instead of listening to it and just running with the inner child because it's scared and it wants to run away. Telling the child, okay, we're going to run away, but let's make a plan and make that plan so that you can move forward. All right. And a side note, happy birthday to my big sister. I hope you guys have a wonderful birthday. Also, I hope that this ending of this year allows you to open up a new reality for yourself, for your greatest good and your divine purpose. All right. Tuesday, November 25th. The moon leaves Capricorn and enters Aquarius. The energy of Aquarius is one where we wake up our creativity. And if we pair that up with the fact that our inner child is very much awake, this is when your inner child is actually like, let's be magicians, let's be artists, let's I don't know, skinny dip in a pool or something. So it's kind of like a really strong awakening of this inner child. Mercury retrograde is also really active this day in Scorpio because it creates a conjunction. So, like a link up with Venus in Scorpio. So, as we saw Monday, we're kind of really seeing the things that we are feeling limited by. Like these situations that we have entangled ourselves with that might not be great for us. This can be people, places, things, energies, frequencies, you guys can determine. And the inner child is kind of in steroids because of the fact that Aquarius is very active this day. So now that fight or flight energy that we had from Monday is now becoming like, but if we did this, we can get out of here. And if we did this, we can get out of there. So, and when we pair that up with the wounds of our past with Scorpios, Mercury retrograde, and our desires, obsessive desires, I want it and I want it now of Venus in Scorpio, we are now linking a 2-year-old having a tantrum because it really wants an ice cream store. I mean, ice cream from the store, and it has to be chocolate, even though there is no chocolate. So keep that in mind, that picture in your head when you're thinking about this day. And if we're thinking about the day before and how we felt restricted, this can create impulsivity. Like, be careful with impulse buying. Be careful with saying too much and exploding in your mouth when you shouldn't, or taking actions that are actually going to shoot you in your foot instead of help you move forward. Having boundaries with yourself, self control, self limitation. You can acknowledge the inner child by maybe writing down everything it's telling you and the frustrations that you're having. You can vent it out by, I don't know, doing something that you like, kind of like a massage, a day out with some friends. I don't know. You guys have to decide because each one of you guys have different things that you would like. I mean, I would do a creative outlet instead of listening to the child. Like when they're having a tantrum, you let them have their emotional moment and then you tell them, do you feel tired? Are you safe? Is everything okay? What do you need right now to feel good? Like, let's focus our energy on something we can do and not what we can't. That's just a suggestion, but it'll be easier if you can get your inner child in check, especially on Tuesday. Wednesday, the 26th, the moon will be in Aquarius. So, a lot more of the energy of Tuesday. So, we are creative. We want to be our authentic self. We want to explore new things with that energy of Sagittarius. Our inner child is very active. This is a great day to come up with ideas, to be creative. I would jot down a lot of your ideas because sometimes the kid goes a little bit crazy inside of you. And it's like, and I can do this, and I can do this, and why don't we try this? And sometimes you need to like reel it in. Oh, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I'm going to put a pin in it for our future. But writing down these ideas would actually be really good for you. As a matter of fact, I can tell you that after the day of, I'm sorry, my nose is itching, so it's telling me I'm totally on point with that energy. The energy on Monday and the energy on Tuesday were so like, I want to say harsh. Like, they're showing me like one of those wire bristle scrubby things that you clean the hard pots with. So it's like really like rough on us. Monday and Tuesday was really rough on us. But then we get to Wednesday and it's like, you know what? Your inner kid wants something. When kids do tantrums, because I have 4, I can tell you it's truth. They're usually trying for you to fill a basic need for them. Sometimes it's being listened to. Sometimes when my kids have like a crazy tantrum, I let them have their moment and I'm like, "Do you need a hug right now?" you know and sometimes it's like, yeah, they just need to be held for a little bit, make sure they're okay, and then they check in and they're fine, and then it's like nothing ever happened, right? um Sometimes all we need is a little hug, or sometimes we need a break, or sometimes we need Netflix and chill, you know? And so try to listen and tune into yourself, because the more you do that your inner child wants, like the better it is for you. Sometimes we think that the only thing we should do is like the adulting thing. And the more we ignore that inner child force, the more we stifle our creative juices and our ability to expand into new realities. But the secondly, we also like kind of debilitate ourselves. So listen in, give yourself that basic need, even if it's just a couple of hours extra sleep, or like, I just want to hang out with my friends today, right? I hope that helps. Thursday, November 27th. The moon leaves Aquarius and starts entering Pisces. So there is going to still be that creativity energy moving around, but we move into Pisces. And when Pisces has its way, we get a little bit emotional. The thing is that we're putting the energy in Pisces when we're emotional, and this for people in the US of A is Thanksgiving. So we're linking ourselves to our feels when we're around people, places, things, energies that usually don't know how to gauge their words, their actions, and their behaviors to not put us in our feels more. So this can be this can have two outcomes. First, it can make us superly emotional and grateful to be around family, friends, loved ones. We can be really our space really open, and we want to connect to these people in a very positive way. Or we have the second outcome, which is we are in our feels. There are many repressed emotions that we haven't spoken about, and some small trigger can explode a negative feedback and actually create, I want to say, a problem instead of a help. Um, I think that one of the things that you have to keep in mind is that we need to be very active in maintaining and deciding our boundaries prior to being around people that might trigger it. And that way, if we have a plan of action and the boundaries that we're going to be taking place for this plan of action, we have less of a tendency to um, do things that will negatively affect us. One of the things that family has a way of doing is like giving backhanded comments or saying things that offend us. And one way that we can deflect that energy is by, instead of laughing and engaging or getting pissed off, because that's what they want, a rise from you, you can take a pause, look at them with this nice smirk, and tell them, I didn't get it. Can you help me understand what you just said? That will obligate the person to repeat it again, and others to realize that it's not okay what they said, and open up that conversation. So it's good because it kind of shuts the person up, because they're going to probably not to want to repeat a sly comment a second time. The second thing that we can do is that we can, if the person's getting heated and kind of foolish, we can say, um, look, we don't have to agree to be able to move forward, but we do have to decide how we would like to move forward. How would you like to move forward? Um, that opens the conversation as to, because a lot of people like to throw things in your face, but they don't have a way of giving you answers or a response to what it is that they really want from that situation. Most of the time, they just want to hurt you because they're hurt. So, giving that opportunity for a person to explain what it is that they want from you helps you determine the boundary that you might want to create with this person. So if they tell you, well, I want you to do this and this and this, and it's beyond what you want, you would tell them, well, that's unfortunate. You might want that, but that doesn't make me feel comfortable. And if we can't come up with a mutual agreement as to what it is that we would want from each other, and how we can work with each other, then maybe it's better if we just move our separate ways. We probably grew apart, right? And that way it creates this energy of, uh, you're not the bad guy. You're not always being attacked. You are now the change agent in your house. I can tell you that the more you become this person, the one that isn't easily bothered, and then you come back like, can you explain what you just said? Like, what does that mean to you? I mean, what were you trying to get from that, or things like that? People have a tendency of watching their mouth before they talk to you. And it's funny because that's what we want people to do when we're yelling and screaming and like talking like aggressively towards them, but that's not the outcome we get. But if you do it this way, for sure you will. So keep that in mind. Try not to be swayed by your emotions in a negative way. Easier said than done. I'll see you next time. Friday, November 28th. The moon is still in Pisces, so we're still highly emotional. But what is really good about this day is that Saturn starts going direct in the sign of Pisces. Saturn is the planet of, I want to say, our foundational beliefs, right? It would be our spiritual belief systems, the box that we create for our reality, and the agreements that we make with ourselves about how that box is going to look like. Also, Venus will be in Scorpio, and it's creating conjunction. So, like a connection with Lilith in Scorpio. So, the energy of I want it and I want it now is linking it with the energy of it's my way or the highway, right? And this is actually a really good combination, and I'll explain why. First of all, the fact that the moon is linking with Pisces and Saturn is going direct in Pisces is creating this change in your internal direction, right? When it was on retrograde, it was showing you all the cognitive distortions, all the negative things and the ways and patterns that you were doing things, and how it was sabotaging you. And when it goes direct, it gets to the point where it's like, oh, I get it now. And now, this entire year has been about taking accountability and responsibility for our lives. So, the way we do that is by growing in our EQ, emotional intelligence. And so that is different, that being very intellectual is not emotionally intelligent. And I'll give it for you guys as homework to figure out why that's a difference. And so what I'm seeing with this moon and Pisces and Saturn and Pisces going direct in Pisces, it feels like you're just sitting there and you're like, oh, I get it now. Like this entire time I was losing my stuff because I was holding everybody by my standards. Like, this is what I would do. And this is something I tell a lot to my clients. Like, when people say, oh, but I see the good in them, or I see their potential. The reality is, you're not seeing the good in them and you're not seeing the potential. You are seeing what you would do if you had the power, the resources, and the abilities that individual has. That's not them. That's you, what you would do. So potential is a lie that you trap yourself in, hoping onto something that is not there because it's you, it's not them. And so when we hold them by that standard, we get to this point where we get disappointed, we make disagreements, we have grudges, we have anger. But it's because we're holding them by our standards and not giving them the opportunity to be held in their standards. Okay. And so just because they can doesn't mean they will. And then we link that up with that Scorpio in both Venus and Lilith connecting. And we get to the point where you're like, okay, now that I know why I've been so upset, so distraught, how things are not working out the way that I want, and how these people just they can't see me, they can't see this, they can't do this other thing. Now I'm also in this point that we're like, yeah, I'm over it now. I'm going to focus on me and what I need and what I need to do to get forward. And I'm going to focus on finding my soul group, right? Instead of trying to change others to be part of my soul group, right? So this feels like a day where it feels very much like a wake up call, which is good because the next day is when Mercury retrograde ends, and we're coming to the end of a learning experience that we've been working on for a while. Also, side note, happy birthday to me. It's my birthday. I feel like this year has been one where I went from the becoming I am to the actual I am. And I feel very much whole now. And I'm hoping that projects outwardly to all of you, and that I continue to show you how we can continue to become the I am. I always say, I came here to take over this world. And so I think I'm ready to start now. Low. Um, See you the next time. Saturday, the 29th, the moon will still be in Pisces, so still highly emotional, highly intuitive, listen to your dreams. But Mercury finally goes direct in Scorpio. So now we have Saturn and Mercury direct. Mercury in Scorpio, Saturn in Pisces. And then we're feeling this energy of relief as Mercury leaves that indirect energy, that retrograde energy, and starts going into the direct energy. And as that happens, just keep in mind that Mercury season, when it happens, it has a way of shifting many different things in our lives. It creates tower moments, surprises, shocks, changes. And once it is over, we have this period of few weeks where we're kind of trying to put the pieces back together of this puzzle in this new way of thinking, being, and behaving. Um, I think this is really important for you guys to keep in mind, because we are entering this energy of 2026, right? Where it's like, I want to say November and December is a great setup for that time. And 2026 is the beginning of a 9-year cycle, right? This is when this one starts again, and then we go all the way through 9. And it's also the beginning of the magician energy, which has to do with seeing all the tools that we have in our hands so that we can make a blueprint for a future. So you learned a lot of things during this Mercury retrograde. You saw a lot of things and you expanded in many different directions. And this is to help you determine what it is that you really want to see and how you want to see it for this next 9-year period of time, so that you can succeed into your future. So it's taking that role as to what it is that I want to see in my life. And so keeping that in mind, one of the questions I would ask myself from now until the end of the year is, where did I feel out of balance? And what can I do to bring that back into balance so that I feel safe and secure? Where should I focus this next 9-year cycle so that I can feel the balance where I felt unbalanced? I hope this helps you. We'll see you the next time. All right, so now we get to the end of the week, Sunday, November 30th. This day, the moon is moving from the sign of Pisces, that emotional energy that we've been experiencing for these last 3 days, into the energy of Aries. So there is still some of that emotion, but we're moving into the energy of Aries. When the moon moves to the energy of Aries, we wake up the divine masculine inside of us, that emperor, the one that's ready to take charge. And what are we taking charge on? Venus is leaving the sign of Scorpio and moving into the sign of Sagittarius. And then it's creating an opposition, which is, I want to say, the waves, right? Those waves crashing into you of Uranus retrograde in Taurus, and the trine Neptune retrograde in Pisces. So what you're being crashed with as your Venus energy moves in Sagittarius, where you're moving from that obsessive energy into that freedom loving, live and let live energy. We're moving into this thought form where we're confronting our perfect life and our reality. The waves that are crashing into you is that shock of my perfect life included me having these people in my life, or being of this religion, or being of this political group, or um seeing the world in the way that my parents showed me, or every one of us is a little bit different. But and now hitting that reality of, actually, that's not a perfect life for me. That doesn't feel right for me. I don't feel good there. One of the things that we were realizing here in 2025 is the game. And the name of the game is, you get put in groups. This would be your family units that have opposing thoughts, energies, feelings as us. And we start our lives trying to fit into that reality and be that person. Then we get confronted with, I hate this person. I hate this life. I hate this reality. And then it's like, I just have to change them to see the world my way so that we can all go together. Because the problem is that they don't realize that this thing is terrible. And then we get to the realization is, wait, they don't want to go in our direction. Wait, do they really love us? Wait, is my life a lie? I can tell you, some of them probably really don't love you, but some of them do love you. It's just that their way, and that's no longer your way. And your decision is, are you going to continue to feel less than by getting their way of love, or going forward to your way of love, right? And so it's kind of seeing that everybody has their perfect picture of their perfect life, and yours doesn't necessarily mimic the ones that you were with before. And then it's giving the allowance of those people to have their perfect life but without you, and you having your perfect life but without them, or maybe with them but just not to the extent that they would like, right? um and then finding those that are of your vibration, right? And that's hard. And I think that's why we were feeling so much pulling in 2025, because it felt like the groups that we came from, like those ones that we don't feel comfortable with anymore, kind of telling us, you can't leave, you have to stay here, you just have to acclimate. And then us kind of saying, no, we don't have to acclimate. I do not want to be part of this world. And it's that tug of war until finally we set ourselves free. And just keep that in mind, because it feels like we're going to start confronting our, I want to say, biggest fear, which is our perfect life doesn't include fill in the blank, right? I hope this helps.